Howdy, Halo fans. Welcome to an episode of the Heady Halo Hot Take Hoedown. Yes, the Hot Take Hoedown is back. First one of the offseason. I didn't think it was going to happen this quick. And, of course, with me, as always, the Lone Star Halo himself, Fernando. I am Vince the Angels Cowboy. Today, we have some breaking news in the Angels organization. If you haven't heard by now, well, you're probably living under a rock. But we're going to talk about the decision, and is it good? Is it bad? What is it about? That might be a little bit of a hint. We'll talk about it coming up right after this.
From Anaheim down to the Texas plains, hot takes flying right off the reins. Lone Star Halo Cowboy Vince, calling it bold, never on the fence. Hoedown time, turn it up loud. Hot takes are ringing, drawing a crowd. No matter how wild, no matter how strange, ain't no limit on the takes we say.
Sorry, I forgot to mute myself. We are clearly not in midseason form anymore. Hey, howdy, hey, what do you say? We talk some Angels baseball. My name is Fernando, the Lone Star Halo, joined by Vince, the Angels Cowboy. Give us a follow at Halos in the Infield. Give him a follow at Angels_Cowboy. We are here to talk all things Kurt Suzuki. Is it good? Is it bad? Well, I don't think it's going to be much of a secret. Today's hot take, the Kurt Suzuki managerial hiring is a good decision. Now, that's a hot take to say the least for sure. I'm not nearly as excited about it as Vince is. Now, Vince also has his reservations. We're going to get into that, of course. But I will have it noted that Vince is a little bit more excited than I am. Before I let him get into that, I still want to address the fact that I think that Kurt Suzuki was the worst option of the bunch. I don't think that's much of a hot take. I think that's probably, everyone probably wanted Torrey Hunter. I think that was the consensus favorite from the polls that I can see from Twitter specifically, or X. But I really wanted Albert Pujols. I was very honest about that. I think he had a good leadership as a player. I think he never looked overmatched in an at-bat, right? That was the biggest thing with Albert Pujols for me. There is a ton of instances of Mike Trout looking overmatched during at-bats, right? Fastballs up in the zone are Trout's kryptonite. But Pujols always at least made contact. Was he the double play king? Absolutely. But you know what? Baseball is a sport that all you can do is make contact, right? Once you make contact, there's nothing else you can do. But you need to make contact in this sport to be successful. And the fact of the matter is that 30% of the time you're going to fail. And if you do that, you're a Hall of Famer. Most people fail like 80 to 85% of the time, Vince, especially in today's modern day baseball. So all things considered, I think Pujols was an elite hitter for the bulk of his career. And even in the tail end of his career, he found ways to be a successful major league hitter. Still drove in runs, still had productive at-bats. And I think that that's really what this young core needed. They needed a change of philosophy. They needed philosophy. I don't know why I said philosophy. Philosophy. They needed to bring that it factor to the at-bats. They needed to bring that presence to the at-bat. They needed to bring a better vision and awareness. And I think Pujols, because of the way he carried himself, would have done that. And the biggest thing, I'm fully convinced that both Torrey Hunter and Albert Pujols would have brought true change in terms of the coaching staff. Because that's the biggest thing, and that's my biggest reservation about Kurt Suzuki. Before I really unpack what my reservations for him are, my biggest fear is that he's going to leave a lot of these pieces in the coaching staff in place. And for lack of a better phrase, before we really get into it and let you take over, I think he's just going to be another bootlicking houseman. Sorry, I think Kurt Suzuki is. Vince, The floor is yours. Do-si-do.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of mixed about this because obviously Albert Pujols and Torrey Hunter were the front runners. I think a lot of Angel fans were banking on it because they're good culture changes. But at the same time, I'm also not surprised about those two being cut off the list that quick because I believe they wanted to do their own philosophy. They wanted to run it the old school way, whereas Perry says, no, I don't want to do that. I want to have the analytical way. We're in the new age. Basically, we have to compete with these other teams who use analytics. We have to compete with the Rays. We have to compete with the Athletics. We have to compete with the team up to 5. So the only way for that to happen is if we play at their level. And what do? We have to use the analytics. And therefore, Albert and Torrey said, probably, this is just my take, they probably said, no, I'm not doing this. I want to play the old school way because do you think that Albert used analytics in the Winter League in the Dominican Republic? Hell no. Okay. And then you look at Torrey Hunter. Did he use analytics when he coaches the futures game? No, because there's nothing about those kids. There is no analytics on those kids. Yeah, they have this kid has an exit velo of this and this kid has a spin rate of this, but that's it. That's all you have off of these players. But when you're in the major league level, there's more analytics involved. So you learn the old school way, and Torrey and Albert, they played the old school way majority of the time. I mean, they look at when Torrey he spent time with Mike Scioscia, old school manager, and then he finished his career before he finished off the last season in Minnesota. He was in Detroit for 2013 and 2014. He had Jim Leland 2013, old school manager. He had Brad Ausmus in 14, who was a new school analytical manager. Look where he got the Tigers. They had a good season. They won the division. But guess what? They got to the postseason. Everything just didn't work out after that. And that's when Ausmus came here to Anaheim. He was an analytical manager, and it didn't work for him. So and that is why I believe Kurt Suzuki was the right fit under Perry Manassian, because Perry, in the group chat you saw in the group chat that we have, I said I think Kurt Suzuki got hired because he basically came in and told Perry, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And that's the thing that you don't see in some of these managers. At least the new managers, they just want an opportunity, at least retired players. But how are they going to get that opportunity? They have to listen to the GM because they're used to that. They're used to listening and learning from the general manager, from anybody. And you look back too, you got to also take in consideration, sometimes the greats aren't the best coaches. Sometimes the greats aren't the best managers. Who are good managers and coaches? The ones who didn't have stellar careers, the guys who batted below 300, the guys who knew how to get on base, the guys who knew how to work with basically learn the game. Because talented players, they're talented. They're talented for a reason. They're given that. They really don't have to learn. They just go out there. But the players who basically were above average to average, they had to learn and they had to build their way up to the players that they were. Kurt Suzuki was that type of guy. Kurt Suzuki's from Hawaii. Hawaii is not known for having big players. On average, players are about 5'8" to about maybe 6 foot. That's the range that you see in their height. But what makes them good players? Their work ethic. Kurt Suzuki had the work ethic. He was willing to learn to get to the next level. Look what happens. He goes to Cal State Fullerton. He wins a national championship in 2004. He was a valuable piece in that World Series run. In the World Series in Texas, he hit the game-winning base hit that got the Titans that gave him the lead and eventual national championship. He's played with Justin Turner. He's played with a lot of great players out of Cal State Fullerton. And then when he spent time in Oakland, he was winning in Oakland. He also won a world championship with the Nationals in 2019. So he knows how. So he basically, like I said, he built himself to be the player that he is. Did he have a great career? Not really, but he had all-star years. He had good years in Oakland. He had a good year in Minnesota. He had a good postseason run in Washington, so he was valuable, but he wasn't the valuable guy that's going to be 10 wins above replacement. I mean, he's just a valuable piece to from a pitching perspective. That's where the advantage he has. But at the same time, it all comes down to who was going to listen to Perry. Guess what? Kurt Suzuki was the first, in my opinion, was the first one to say, Perry, whatever you want, I'll do.
Yeah, so that kind of ties it back to what my fear was with Kurt Suzuki. So Kurt Suzuki has been the special assistant of Perry Manassian for the last, 2 years, as soon as he retired, right? So the writing was on the wall, sure. And I guess what a lot of us fans did want was the common thing is we wanted a first-time manager, right? The Angels haven't had a first-time manager in quite a while. So since Mike Scioscia, you had Brad Ausmus, you had Joe Madden, then you had Phil Nevin, who was a first-time manager. You had Ron Washington, and then by default, you had Ray Montgomery. He was also a first-time manager, right? Unless I missed something. He's been in the organization for a long time. But I don't really count Ron Washington. Phil Nevin was also an interim manager, but then he got brought on for an additional year. So that's kind of why I'm counting him. So this is according to Baseball Fan Zone, a graphic I found. So Brad Ausmus was 72-90 as an Angel manager. And of course, he oversaw the extremely tragic passing of Tyler Skaggs. And that's going to be another future episode once that court proceeding is completely wrapped up. Joe Madden was 130 and 148 as the manager of the Angels. I thought his record would have been a lot worse. I don't remember it being that close to 500. Phil Nevin was 119 and 149, not very good at all. Ron Washington was 99 and 137, also not very good at all. And then Ray Montgomery at 36 and 52, and we will see what happens with Kurt Suzuki. Now, my fear with Kurt Suzuki, once again, because he has been the special assistant to Perry Manassian, lets you know that this has bootlicking houseman written all over it. I understand that most managers who turn out to be successful managers weren't great players. Look, you and I are, in our very, very, very early 30s, right? We just hit 30. So give Vince and I a little bit of credit. We're still very new to players we watched growing up becoming managers, right? Phil Nevin, Brad Ausmus was kind of some of those players that you and I watched on the tail end of their careers become players. Now you can throw Kurt Suzuki in there. Stephen Vogt just got a managerial job. So, we didn't grow up watching Mike Scioscia play, right? We grew up watching him manage, but I don't remember him playing on the Dodgers. I don't remember Joe Torre playing. There's a lot of these guys, Ron Washington, Joe Madden. I don't remember their minor league careers, etc. So I understand that you can't look at a guy like Barry Bonds and be like, that guy's going to be a great coach one day, because we saw him become a hitting coach for the Marlins, and that was a disaster. So I understand there is a lot of players who were average or above average, or even in the GOAT conversation, right? We've mentioned Kobe Bryant before. Kobe Bryant was notorious for saying he'd be a terrible coach one day, right? Because it frustrated him watching other people's work ethic. Shaq being a big one. There's some guys that just don't match that work ethic, so he's having a hard time articulating to a certain player what they need to change about their game. So I understand that there's these guys who are elite players, elite athletes, who just don't make good coaches, who just don't make good managers. And I think that guys like Torrey Hunter, and I truly think that Albert Pujols, both of those guys would have been the exception to that rule. I think they're both going to make great managers wherever they go. I think Pujols is going to be a phenomenal manager. And if Torrey Hunter does want to manage, I think he's going to go on to be successful. I'm still not sold on Kurt Suzuki, however.
Well, I mean, I can make some good arguments too. Obviously, it's all mixed. Everyone's saying it's not a good decision. Others are saying, well, it could work. And I'll give you some examples right here. These are some tweets that actually came out. So let me find when he got hired. Basically, it was a talk about like this right here. It's like it would be interesting to see how long Suzuki's contract is. Because Manassian has one more year. Oh, here's one. In an article reporting that the Giants interviewed him, the San Francisco Chronicle noted that Kurt Suzuki is, quote, known for his high energy level and positivity, which are Stephen Vogt's hallmarks. Interesting. Second one. Max Scherzer also publicly called Suzuki, quote, invaluable, and spoke about how well they work together in terms of pitch selection. Worth noting that in the 2019 World Series Nationals run, Max Scherzer had a much better ERA when throwing to Suzuki compared to Yan Gomes. Take that into consideration for sure. Another thing to add too, that Suzuki actually responded to the hiring. He said this is basically what the style he's going for. The Angels will be attention to detail. They will play baseball the right way. They will be coached well. Kind of sounds familiar from Ron Washington.
Yep.
We will be prepared every single day. Go out there and give it 100%. That's what the fans deserve. There's always a starting place that doesn't make you qualified for or unqualified, but I will surround myself with great people, great baseball minds. I don't have an ego. I will have people with me that are great coaches. I will make mistakes, but I will learn from it and guarantee I won't make that same mistake again. So yeah, you do see the confidence in him, and but it makes sense the way that he said that, because one, it's his first time. A lot of first-time managers are going to say, like, oh, I will learn from my mistakes and I will make sure to pick the right people in a way. But also, too, that's what leaders do. He's a catcher, and catchers have to be the leaders. They're the quarterback of the entire defense. They're the quarterback of the entire team. They have to make sure to make the right decisions and then pitch selections. That one I read about Max Scherzer, that gave me confidence because I felt like, well, he's going to help Logan O'Hoppe. So that is some positive I have with him, is that is he going to come in, which most likely he will, and help Logan O'Hoppe and say, look, I remember what you did in 2022 when we were teammates, and I remember what you did in 2023. Whatever you did, go back to that, because it looked like they messed you up. Or maybe he mentioned it when he was a advisor. I don't know. It could be there could be a lot of things, but I would hope that Suzuki is going to be that manager who is going to help Logan O'Hoppe be the catcher that he is supposed to be in this Angels organization, and then also help with the pitchers. If he's, I mean, says it all right there. Max Scherzer, a Hall of Fame pitcher, had a much better ERA with Kurt Suzuki behind the dish than Yan Gomes. That tells you something. And let's not forget, Yan Gomes caught Game 7 of the World Series in that 2019 World Series, which is kind of confusing. It's like, okay, why not Suzuki if you're trying to win Game 7? Well, most likely it had to do with the offense. I think Yan's bat was a lot more valuable, and Dave Martinez said, okay, I need bats in this Game 7 because we're facing Zach Greinke. So that it makes a lot of sense. I believe that Suzuki is, I like I said, I'm mixed about it. Like, the decision is kind of questionable, but now that I'm diving deep into what other people are saying, it starts to add up a little bit, and it makes me feel a little bit more confident. That's just me. I mean, obviously, we're that's the beauty of the show. Like, there's times where we have differences. This is one of them. I hope I'm correct, and that there's a lot of positivity into the season. I believe the energy that he brings is going to help, because that's what we need. We need that the lighter fluid. It's just like I said when we talked about who is going to be the next manager when we were banking on Pujols. Who is that lighter fluid? We have the sparks. We have the matches. We just don't have the lighter fluid to make that fire bigger. What is the lighter fluid? The manager. Could it be Suzuki? We'll find out.
Yeah, look, I'm hoping he turns out to be a good manager, obviously, right? I'm a fan of this team. We need him to be a good manager. And regardless of why they decided to roll with him as the manager, the fact of the matter is they made the decision to do so, right? So give him a 5-year plan. when we had Ty Buttrey on, and he was talking about the carousel that's been the Angels managerial position and how difficult it is to buy into a culture when you're continuously having to change it. That takes a toll on the players, right? So you need to figure out what the 3 to 5 year plan is for Kurt Suzuki. Let him know, hey, you know what? Your first year here, we're hoping to get closer to that 500 mark, if not to that 500 mark. They keep trying to pitch the narrative that the Angels took a step forward last year. Well, it didn't really reflect in terms of the standings, right? We were still last place. We won more games than we did the year prior, so I guess that's a positive step forward, but also everyone else in the division got better, clearly. I mean, the Mariners just missed the World Series. Houston just missed the playoffs. The Athletics are getting better again. I don't know what's happening now. So that's exactly where we are. So we'll see what happens with Kurt Suzuki at the manager position. And I'm hoping for the best. I'm truly hoping for the best. Sorry, guys. I got a little thrown off because Todd changed the background. Todd came in for a brief second, and I know you guys couldn't see that. So, that's what happened with that.
Yeah, but I get your point for sure, Fernando. And you just got to you obviously hope for the best. I mean, yeah, is it a step forward? I mean, yeah, it's a mix of yes and no. But the question is it a step forward for the players that are for the players, that is? Yeah, it's obviously there's a shakeup as managers and like coaching staff. But at the same time, like, are the players improving? You know, Zach Neto for sure definitely improved. Logan Hoppe unfortunately took a big step back, maybe 2 steps back. And then Noah Shonowell took a step forward. Christian Moore is in the same spot. He hasn't moved because it's his first year. You got to cut him some slack. And also he was playing with an injury, so that affects him just a little bit. But there's a bunch of other things to take into consideration. And I just hope that Suzuki also has a good coaching choices. Maybe he's going to bring some former teammates. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe some former Athletics, maybe some former Twins, maybe some former it would be cool to have former Angels, but that's highly doubtful. Or even some former Nationals, because that's what a lot of managers do is they like to hire former teammates. I think what they like the strategy is they hire former teammates first to get like their, basically the guys they picked up or noticed in their career, like, hey, like, I remember like you as a hitter, like the drills that you did, and then that's going to help you a lot, or that helped you a lot during your career. You should implement that as a coach. With defensive, like infielders and outfielders, they learn about they learn certain ways of tracking the ball, or like getting around the ball. That can implement as a coach, and reads and whatnot, base running too, just anything in general, and maybe even pitching. I mean, whoever's out there just whoever's out there that's willing to take that step and ready to say, like, let's do it,
Yeah. No, and you bring up great points. The fact of the matter, like I said, they made the decision to give Kurt Suzuki the show. I think there was better options. But for better or worse, this is a ship. This is the way they decided to turn the ship. So we'll see who he brings on. Now, I guess as we start to slowly put a bow on this episode, I want to ask you this. So we obviously don't know how much range they'll give Kurt Suzuki to hire his staff. I'd like to hope that he's going to get a pick on who he'd like to bring, because then there's no excuse, right? If he truly brings on a horrendous staff, this year is a train wreck, he does a terrible job, mismanagement up and down, is it only going to be his fault? No, of course not. The front office is going to have their portion of the blame. But let me ask you this. So because he's going to be a first-time manager, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Do you think it'll be pivotal for him to get a bench coach with deep experience in coaching? Maybe not necessarily managerial experience, but a bench coach that has been coaching for a long period of time, just to kind of maybe give him that guidance? Or do you think this really needs to be as close to a fresh start up and down as you can get?
Well, I would believe he's probably set, and he'd probably have somebody who wants to be a manager that could help, that he can build with. Because when he was with the Angels, there was talks that Phil Nevin was giving him tips about how to be a manager, basically, in a way. So that might take into consideration. You probably have a fresh face, or I think a fresh face is probably something he would go with, because it sounds like that, according to Phil Nevin, he was ready to be a manager. He just needed a few more years of like being being an advisor to lead, or a special assistant to get into that perspective in a way. Yeah, I would say start fresh a little bit. There's probably some former players who really would like to be a bench coach, and I think he's going to hop on that for sure.
Well, time will tell. Keep it with us as this starts to unpack and we start to get more news about this Kurt Suzuki signing. But once again, for better or worse, Kurt Suzuki is going to manage our 2026 Angels. We have no idea yet on the terms of the contract. Will he be around for a while? I would venture to guess it's probably going to be like a 3-year contract is my guess. It's probably a 4th, maybe even a 5th year option. That's just my guess. What do you think, Vince? That sound about right in your opinion?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay. Well, we will wrap it up here. I know the other boys are ready to do a show for the football show. If you're interested in football, by the way, the NFL, you can head on over and watch the Unfiltered Sports podcast. We're also at Halos and Infield doing Ducks breakdowns after games. So if you're interested in that, keep it here, because Halos in the Infield is going to keep you alive and watching sports and keep you in the loop until first pitch of spring training and, of course, opening day next year in Houston. By the way, if you want to be there for that game, 714 tickets. Use code HITI at checkout, HITI, for 10% off. They're already great rates. And by the way, the price you see, that's the price you're going to pay. Actually, no, because you're going to get 10% off. HITI. You also get 5% back in future purchases. And 714 Tickets has tickets for almost every event you could possibly imagine. Hey, guys, Monday Night Raw is coming to Anaheim on Monday. Yeet. So, yeah, head on over to 714 Tickets if you want tickets for that. Head on over to Bruheim. Mention Halo is in the Infield for drink specials. You can head on over to the OC Dugout. Let them know that we sent you. They always got a bunch of cool memorabilia things going on over there. And, of course, Max Market Pros. Make sure that you let them know that we sent you as well. Vince, anything in closing?
No, just keep enjoying the off season. If you go to Duck games, yeah, go Ducks. It's been fun so far. The season is young, but yeah, we just got to keep the hope up, because there's a lot of hype in Anaheim for sure around this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Has not been a bad start for the Ducks. It's been a fun hockey season. I've been trying to get onto this Utah Mammoth bandwagon, see if maybe that'll fill the void for me. And if not, next year I'll be on the lookout for another team. Now that the Coyotes don't exist, rest in peace. But yeah, I mean, besides that, I'm watching some Broncos. Vince, we got lucky against the Giants is the best way to put it for sure. But hey, a win is a win is a win. Exactly. By winning is what you call it.
Exactly.
And if not, we got wrestling. I got my my John Cena belt just because, like I said, Raw is coming to Anaheim on Monday. Wish I could be there. But yeah, for all of you guys going there, have a good time. We don't have the outro now because Todd came and accidentally changed everything. So from Anaheim down to the Texas Plains, we will see you guys next time on the Halo Hot Take Hoedown. Bye, everybody.